Morning everybody. Today I'm going to show you how I make a raccoon skull go from looking like this to looking like this. Okay, so I've got my raccoon I just skinned here. So you want to cut the skull off of it. I always use a knife as opposed to a saw, because if you use a saw, a lot of times guys will cut like this and they'll cut where they think it is and they'll end up cutting the whole back of the skull off. So use a knife. What you want to do is kind of somewhere around in here, you can kind of see where the head bends. Take your knife, cut down straight through there, and then I kind of just ring it around all the way. And give them a chiropractic adjustment and cut the rest of that off. And now we have the skull removed. We're gonna have to take a bunch of this meat off of here, but at least we know the skull is still intact. So the next step in cleaning this guy up is going to be cutting some of the extra meat off of it. So for that, you want a nice sharp knife. And you want to just cut as much meat off this guy as possible. So I usually start at the top here. And just work my way kind of down. The more meat you cut off at this stage, the faster everything else goes. There's no art or magic to this. It's literally just take your knife and start hacking and get as much as you can. For the tongue in this, I usually just loosen up like that, kind of along the jaw. Pop that right out of there. When we get to the back, you can see this is where there's the connection at the back of the skull. So you just kind of take your knife and work your knife in between there. Just cut all the connection tissues. Twist, that pops off of there. All this cheek meat here, cut a bunch of that off of there. That. Pop the eyeballs out, which literally just stick your knife inside and pop them out. Here. There, and now it's ready to go to the next stage. So for the next stage, I use beetles to clean skulls, so I'm going to put that raccoon down in there. You can see the beetles are kind of going crazy right now. I just cleaned them up, scooped all the crap out of the bottom of the tank, put it up there. You can see them all working their way back down into the main tank. So leave all the garbage up there, but the beetles will come back down. So with that fresh raccoon in there, they'll be cleaning up the top part, and I bet you this guy will be cleaned up by morning. Hey, it's the next morning here. Let's take a look. Oh yeah, they did a good job cleaning him up. So I'm gonna stick him on the de-beetling rack over here. Give him a couple days there for the beetles to all come off of them, and we'll start the degreasing process. So he's been on the de-beetling rack for a couple days. Beetles are all off of him now. So the next step is to degrease and whiten it. So for that, I just take a bunch of Dawn dish soap, put a bunch of that in there, put a bunch of peroxide in with it. a good coating. And then I take some water that's been boiled. Put that in there. Flip it over, make sure that whole thing fills up with water. So ideally you want this thing submerged the whole time. And then we'll leave it in there for a bit. And may have to switch the water out and do it again depending on how much grease is in the bone. Raccoons can sometimes be pretty greasy. Still some air in there. But yeah, I'll keep doing this until it turns out white, and then we may need to put some peroxide on it directly afterwards. But a lot of times with these smaller skulls, just adding some peroxide into the hot soapy water helps whiten them up at the same time you're degreasing. Okay, I just drained the water out. It's been about a week soaking in there, and you can see he has still got quite a bit of degreasing to go yet. So I'm gonna put some new fresh water in there and let him keep soaking. Raccoon's been degreasing for a couple weeks now. He's looking pretty good. I just took him out of the water. So the last step we're gonna do is put some peroxide directly onto this skull to really whiten it up. So for the peroxide process, it's pretty basic. I just put peroxide directly into a bucket or a pail or any kind of container. Take a paintbrush and then literally just brush that peroxide on there. You want to make sure you get it down inside the nasal area there so it whitens up all the bones inside. And just paint that brush, that peroxide on with the paintbrush. Cover the whole skull. Real good coating over the whole thing. Don't miss any spots. I like using a paintbrush because it kind of gets into some of those little tighter nooks and crannies. Make sure that I try and get a bunch inside the skull there as well. Not for the visual, but just if there happens to be anything that was left inside that skull for whatever reason that didn't get cleaned out, the peroxide helps break it loose. So when we get to the rinsing part after the peroxide had done its job, it'll hopefully break loose any little bits that might still be in there. Most of the time you don't have to worry about that, but occasionally the beetles miss something or something like that, so just helps break loose any of that stuff that might be still in there. So, that, and the lower jaw, same thing, just completely cover it. You want to make sure when you're doing this you're wearing rubber gloves, like decent heavy duty rubber gloves, because if you get this peroxide on your hands it will burn them. Your hands will turn white and it really hurts, so I would recommend highly that you're wearing heavy duty rubber gloves to avoid any of those kind of chemical burns. So there, we'll leave that and then come back and check on it tomorrow and see how it's looking. Okay, skull has been sitting in peroxide overnight. It's looking pretty good. So the last thing I'm going to do is take a kettle full of boiling water. I'm going to pour that in there. Really rinse it off good. Skulls do look a little discolored when they're soaking wet, so as it dries it'll lighten right up. Shake it out good. And the lower jaw. Perfect. And let that dry and then see how it looks. Here's the final raccoon skull. Quite a bit of work, but the end result is definitely worth it.